decisions, perfect decisions, upright decisions for our people, that we can lead transparently, that we can make sound decisions, that we can make visionary decisions, that we can make decisions with love and care for our people. Because God, you are love and care. God, you are a lovely God, and we are lovely people that you have appointed to these positions, that we can serve our people. And God, I pray that that is what we are. In this year and the next 5 years to come and into the future, we see positivity. We see no more killing, no more economic crisis, no more cash flow issues, no more mismanagement or abuse of offices. We see good leadership by both the government and the opposition, and by the public servants, and by those in authority. God, we pray and we see the future of Papua New Guinea good and perfect, because God is with us. God, you are here with the people created by God, pure and good. God, we're fearfully and wonderfully created. And I'm seeing, God, that you're with us, and this country, Papua New Guinea, God, it is a paradise you've given us. And this is a country that we love so dearly. And the people that God, you died for, we love them as leaders, and we will lead them. God, we are sure that the wisdom is with us, understanding is with us, and love, happiness, and joy, and knowledge is with this parliament, the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition, the Deputy Prime Minister, us ministers and members of Parliament, the opposition members, the public servants, all of us, we see, and the people of Papua New Guinea, we have love and positivity in our minds. We are positive. What we create within us with the conviction is what we will see without. God, we believe in ourselves. This is a nation you've given us. We cannot let it go down to the deterioration of negativity and problems. God, we believe this nation will see positive in the many years to come. We pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. And my colleague members, let's pray the wonderful prayer that Christ taught us. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Thy Lord be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses.
Give us this day our daily bread.
For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Honorable members, me also am a speaker like Meki Monbla Liglikta. Talk here this morning before you make a lot of business per day. Long. When I come up aste, today reported the front page long Post Korea. Some time you miss make a maswa. Nami believe also in Post Korea you make a maswa aste. Aswa lo reporting lo now lo morning lo front page lo Post Korea. It talk also in Parliament and me too hot or me sweat haste. Aste me sit down no see me no physically sweat, no me emotionally sweat. Because lo morning yet. Yes, you may understand him, you may got heavy of PNG power. But me play a parliament talk on them PNG power. Stand only assure him you me that Bali non up of him power lo you me. Location blame me last day. So I stay parliament no operate lo genset. Time parliament was in session. And me operate lo PNG power. So me believe also in Post Korea I make a maswa lo put him lo front page also in parliament and me too hard. Or you sweat aste. So that's fly he make him this la question or when a kind journalism school also go school long way talk long investigative journalism. Misa asking me plenty time also. You can two-side story na behind. You put him through the story come out. No can kiss him one side story na. You put him na iolsem. Solo deslam. Me got some ting ding, but we must hold him back past him. Clerk, he got petition. No got notices. You know got you may come long time. Lo ask him, you know got talk sabe. Probably 5 minutes. But Bamin Larim, Minister of Law Education, you stop, but you back him continue long. Answer him question, you know, talk sabi belum ni kalau member belum pomio aste, so milarim you now kisim flow lo back him das fla, ask him lo aste. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for giving me another time again to complete my
Sorry, you may get on the point of order. Yes, honorable member of law, Yalibu Pangya.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday's, I'm not trying to disturb the minister from making this reply to the questions, but yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the minister was abruptly stopped while answering the question. He is a mandated leader of this honorable house, leader of the people and this electorate. The chair needs to apologize to the member because without excusing him, he was stopped from answering the question. Despite the fact that an important visitor visited our chambers, he is still a leader, Mr. Speaker. This chair owes him an apology before he asks the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member of the Yalibu Pangya. The point of order of you. But stop lo standing order too, and me talk clear also. CI can interrupt in parliament anytime when we think we can. Lo display. So lo display you talk about me talk sorry, yes. Talk sorry below me, and we will make him na look sabe also by continue lo make him display back him lo answer tete. But me talk sorry lo minister. Lo display aste. Me must interrupt him you long. Beg him this la question, but I'm advised we mix him all couscous lo email parliament. Only talking me time program and me goal sem na time prime minister lo Australia come, but you interrupt him parliament na you go ahead. Na you may follow this program, but me talk sorry lo you na now you got this law. You flow lo you lo answer him this la back him long questioning long member of pomio. Thank you.
thank you, member bro Yalibu Pangyalo. Support me long. Speaker must talk sorry. Me accept him is talk sorry. All right, now I will continue with my reply to member for Pomio. He was asking yesterday about the behavior management policy for the education department. And number two question was if the state owns the land where the schools are established throughout the countries. So firstly, behavior management policy and the Boy Scout policy and the management plan was launched in one of the schools in the National Capital District. Has been launched by the Governor General. We are now encouraging all the schools to use that policy to educate our kids throughout the schools on the behaviors and values and types of attitudes that we face throughout the schools and throughout the societies. So our education department is working very hard to get those things done off the ground with the help of our guidance officers in the provinces and our schools, Board of Management, and the teachers, and the churches and parents. I said yesterday, it is all the stakeholders' responsibility to ensure that the behavior of our kids in the school system educated well, are trained well, and guided well throughout. So we produce the kids, we throw them to the schools, and we expect the students and teachers and the schools to manage all the issues that we face. But let me take you through by zooming down. If the child is causing any social problems, the first question they ask is, where does he come from? Which province? Which district? Even which country? And you zoom it down to parents. If you go to the village and the district, they said, he comes from which parents? So the small dot starts from the parents. So parents, we are responsible. If we bring up a child well, we will not have any issues. We will not have any issues affecting our society. So society creates and trains our children very much in the attitude towards learning and behaving in the society. Number 2 question, if the schools are registered under the Lands Department, my response would be no. As we understand, the schools are the community-oriented programs. All the communities own the schools, and the Education Department, our state, only establishes those schools. The lands are owned by the churches and the government, where they allow the schools to be established. In our customary land, in the community, they agreed on a certain location of the land. They liaise with the landowners in a central location. They agreed, they established the land. We have no records of registering any land of the education institutions throughout the country. But the message received was good. In the future, it's a big job, but we don't create a room for economic activity or commercializing the lands for education purposes, because it's a community-oriented project, and communities have agreed to, and they given the land with no cost or low cost. So that's the issue that we have, but we can take it on from there with the lands officers. And if we are to register the land as per the community agreement, we can do that so that the state can own. But at the moment, in the mindset of our community, they already know where the schools are is a state land, as well as the health facilities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor Blomorbe.
Mr. Speaker, me get up long ask him come to you. Question by come to you.
By you ask him, Pastor Share, you can talk all right, you seek him lip, Pastor.
Yeah, me like him, kiss him talk all right, you say, because she has also got power. No question now, but me ask him. Also, no, me Sarim display, ask him come to you, Pastor.
Am I right? You can ask him, Shia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By me sleeping this question long good lo talk in. Or some by me sleeping come to you. Mr. Speaker, Section 10 long law provincial local level government council. This is Section 10, and we talk out straight long. We said by staff inside long provincial government. We said they get power long staff inside long provincial government. And we talk out long all members of parliament, long one open electorate inside the province. And then Governor Yet, who is a regional member. And then the appointed members. And then chiefs. And then the representative long. Suppose he got 2 or 3 even council, 1 long all by representing all inside long assembly. Mr. Speaker, Moravi provincial government, the current this matter go along Supreme Court. Time amendment been come out with this parliament. Brother Blumi, member of Yaribu, been put in this amendment. Law put him over the LLG president by staff long outside. Now, Supreme Court tell me, even talk on some display me eminent right under Section 187 long Papua New Guinea Constitution. And we've been talk on some. Mr. Speaker, now, the Supreme Court rule him automatically minimum local level government council president, but you go back automatically, you go inside long. You go inside long assembly, provincial assembly. Government must, this national government must pass some law. Amendment it come long, organic law, long provincial and local level government. And then all by come back in long provincial assembly. Automatic. Supreme Court got power long ruling was some law unconstitutional or no or not. Which Supreme Court is making finish. Talk some display attempt long put him over the council presidents of outside. Unconstitutional. So Supreme Court is making this decision. Walk him establish national parliament. Long academy come long national parliament or walk establish government. Long bring him come long parliament. Now by proposing bill long by bring him all come back because in recommendation from the Supreme Court. That's all. Parliament, government after the Supreme Court decision, making one election until now. Long Parliament. Sentencing law, he come long Parliament. So, long view of me, the LSG president now will stop inside long assembly illegally, unconstitutionally, all will stop. All will stop. Or some make like asking you, Mr. Honorable Speaker, you got power, I need long constitution. Long referring matter to the Supreme Court, long he said clearance must come up. And one question, now but you walk him or one question. Number two question, Mr. Speaker. Number two question. Organic law and we talk on district planning and budget priority committee. Organic law he talk. Now Mr. Speaker, this organic law he talk long by member of parliament, na governor, one time or some line, or council president by establishing this DDA, not DDA, sorry, provincial budget and priority committee, this law in Wokolo Sun up yet. Wokolo Sun up yet. And then you may got DDA, District Planning Budget Priority Act, which is giving power along. Member one time LG president, Narapla line, member Makimolo stopping Salo DDA. Now suppose one play look, good. DDA making walk long. District Planning Budget Priority Committee. Now in my view, unconstitutional. Because organic law, son of him display District Planning and Budget Priority Committee, have too much long DDA. Now, DDA can walk long, display District Planning Budget Priority Committee, unconstitutional. One kind of similar district or authority now, you can get up him long. Lay city, that minute of display long. Member of me, good member and walk stop. I'm never upset him, I'm not. I'm low, that's all me talk. Long this lab too, and we take away two walk on DDA, District Planning Budget Priority Committee. So he got plenty. It's a constitutional issue and all this stuff. Also, the Speaker, me humbly asking you because you got standing. I need long constitution. Long referring this constitutional issue, you go to Supreme Court. Long by Supreme Court by giving me clear opinion. You come like you so that you government by survey good now open member to some like that fight go come start on you all two by clear on this law. Also me ask him one time long ask him come like you long marry you long by you can ask him a lawyer advise him you na by sorry me go to Supreme Court na by Supreme Court you give him opinion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Governor Blong Morobe. Ask him you ask him come Lucia. Maybe Minister local level government in the government and staff Harim. Now Larpla line Minister Attorney because he passed the law. No good me aswal of him ask him you. Bami talk bami kisimol advice long all Sabeman of Parliament. Now Walkman. Behind we can back him on you. We can back him, ask him you, lo paper, he come back. Thank you. Honorable Member of Logoilala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for allowing the people of Golal to speak in this term of Parliament. Thank you, Speaker. Me ask him question blomi golo good plan Minister blo petroleum energy. Mr. Speaker, in recent times, there have been activities along the border of Gulf and Central, specifically Ward 6 of the Guarani LNG of Gola District. ExxonMobil Antelope Limited, EFB 21 lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Mr. Speaker, my question is centered around 4, 5, and 6, lines 4, 5, and 6. If the good minister can deny or confirm that such presence or such activities are taking place in these particular coordinates, 4, 5, and 6, in Upper Village of Guari District, Aguari LNG in Gola District Central Province. Mr. Speaker, the loss of extractive industries is made in such a way that we as open members in this floor of Parliament are not at a dining table to discuss the progress or the initiation of extractive industries, including gas, oil, and mining. For this, by virtue of this alone, Golala member is not on the table with discussions of such activities taken in the backyard of Golala. Mr. Speaker, number one question, can you confirm or deny that such is taking place? Number two, can you also confirm if 4, 5, and 6 is in Gulf or in Golala? Number three question, Mining Minister also take note. Can the two ministers before this House, can there be amendment made to the acts of the extractive industries so that can allow the presence of open members to be, instead of being spectators on the land, to be at the dining table at the first place, so that our people can have a better and fair representation at all levels in terms of equity and also benefit sharing arrangements in whatever activity that takes place in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's my humble question to the good minister.
Honorable member, before me ask him, Minister, no beg him ask him, you. When you mean no dining table, because sa tok and bago la handset, no line wala harim now. So you clear him. So otherwise, why you must send him back this lahap talk here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I seek leave to rephrase. What I mean, dining table is when there is discussions of to progress or to initiate projects of such magnitude or degree in any particular district or province. There should be a round table where we are also called as open members, because, Mr. Speaker, in this House, we do not represent ourselves. We represent a group of people. In my instance, I represent a group of people called the Golala people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. You withdraw him the talk dining table, now you go round table.
I withdraw dining table to round table. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. May I ask him, Minister now, beg him, ask him, honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mining Act na Oil and Gas Act to play got very good procedures lo imi behind him lo conducting mining and petroleum activities inside of Papua New Guinea. So far meeting also multisla procedures emi good plan emi got space na time lo all the stakeholders lo involved at the right time in the right place. So we got confidence lo existing procedures lo yumi. Lo talk long whether all by stop lo dining table behind come a round table You got time, let me start. First time through all operating company, all you must work in clean vetting. And in this case, Total Energies Law, PRL 15, El Candelo project. Total Energies working clean vetting finis. Now I think 1 October last year, all given become law Department of Petroleum and Energy, Department of Petroleum.
You may got a point of order, Honorable Minister. Honorable Governor, when a point of order, blue.
Just me like clarify so that Minister can correct him some thinking law, Minister, in regards to the procedures and processes that are undertaken by the mining and petroleum industry or the departments. Specifically, I would say the departments. Because the fact of the matter is that in many instances, they don't consult either the provincial government or the local level governments. They don't even consult the genuine landowners in many instances. They get their landowners from Mosby or somewhere else, and suddenly they turn up and they hold a so-called community hearing. And oftentimes we find out too late, and we realize that the people that are involved are not the right people. They're not even landowners in many instances. So please, I just want to correct the good minister that there are serious flaws in these two departments, because what he thinks is happening is not actually happening in many instances. This is our experience in Oro province, so I just want to highlight this here. This is good for us because we can now go and correct these anomalies that exist in these two ministries, mining and petroleum. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, also key point me working and me talk. You got time, I got place. Law, relevant stakeholders law engaged at the right time and at the right place. So these are all steps and we start. Now, I try to explain now. So in the case of mining and military law mining minister, but petroleum and also, number one, clean vetting and operating company by working, and in this case, we talk finish Total Energy, all working clean vetting finish. Now, all giving come law, oblong department. Now, in law, department and must go now verify this preliminary studies law, operating company. So, law working this plan, we plan needing experts who said money got educational qualification, work experience, law working this law, because they want very important issues to make sure that the correct provinces, the correct districts, the correct LLGs, the correct clans, the correct members of the clans are identified so that all can participate. So now me by establish this point where department law me only been advertised late last year, no kissing all experts law working this verification study. Now I think only working this decision. Now, early this year, now by MIPLA starting verification project in the case of the Papua LNG project is in our El Cantaloupe area. Now, project benefits and by Golo Usatman, ground blend is that inside all blocks. All blocks got boundaries block. Coordinates block is that. So all benefits by Golo this lab. Now, law work in this law and this law phase 2 study department law me by conducting here. What total working all identifying claims finish. All identifying all claims finish. Work law me plan law gonna verify this law claims now to find out usat and members of this law claims. All right. After that is concluded, Mr. Speaker, by me holding by me signing one on the advice of those who carry out the verification study, all by working recommendation come to department team blow me, all by studying this report, all one bell, all by putting me by signing. Me by signing on advice. So once me signing now, all by putting law National Gazette. Now this law by confirming USAT and me landowner. So inside of Papua New Guinea, because of our land tenure system, easy law identifying all landowners. Easy law even identify more provinces involved. So these things have to come through careful study. And one of my experiences, me like Toto came out saying, it's a very sensitive issue. Now, no matter what the project company says in its own studies, no matter what my department say in their subsequent verification study, there's always context. Some of these contexts can last many, many years. So it's not a very easy landscape. We do our very best to make sure that we include people as widely as possible so that we reduce the friction, so that the project can go ahead. Now, Olga can benefit out of it. So the issue in itself, as the governor has pointed out, is a very sensitive issue. We are very much aware of that. We will do everything to make sure that those who qualify as landowners, those who qualify as the provinces hosting the project, etc., will be carefully, scientifically identified, and then determinations will be made for gazettal, and we will move forward. So once I publish that gazettal, and everybody in the project footprint area, whether it's in the Gulf Province, in the Eastern Islands Province, Chumbu, Western Islands, or Central Province, only stuff inside of this project area, we will know very shortly when the study is completed. So me working on talk now, and by me kalapin banis na, by me creating false, wrong expectation about the Bangrapin team na build people behind time. So you must wait in this process lo complete. So time lem lo you me working time is la final something ready finished. Then we will move to the development forum. Development forum and time where all provinces na districts na landowners susat properly sit down inside lo gazettal determination all by comes in on national government. Now, by me having round table, lo how by me can scale more benefits by come out of this land. So the matter is in progress. Now, me like assuring everybody that once this process complete, start by court, start like I'm development forum, by come development forum. Now, by me all gonna support lo moving project forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before me sit down. So at this stage, lo answer member lo goilala. Mino sawe, you may sawe that in principle projects in the Gulf province, but whether neighboring provinces like Central, that includes Goilala, Eastern Islands, Chimbu, even Western Islands, or kind of Southern Islands, so Mino clear, all come inside, and something block behind. By me, you may wait now looking final conclusion of studies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, you may get supplementary. Honorable Member of Kairaku, when I'm supplementary blue.
Mr. Speaker, supplementary blow me.
The land is owned by the Kashmiri landowners. The land tenure system continues to be a major impediment to investment. And just quickly, for clarity, as we push for development in Chuave with our Kashmiri landowners, if the good Minister for Lands and Deputy Prime Minister can confirm whether we will continue to be using the Land Incorporation Amendment Act 2009, otherwise known as the ILG Act, or whether we will be repealing this act and replacing it with something else. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you for the important question from a good member from Shuabe. Yes, the ILG Act is what we've been using is a pretty good one, but it comes with some consequences. It has been grossly abused by a lot of people. It has been abused grossly by a lot of people, especially our intellectual ones in our rural communities. That some of them have used people to register ILGs and have taken ownership of that land off our people from the villages who are left with no ownership rights. So currently, Lands Department under my tenureship is looking at amending it to find a more suitable option so that it can be able to ensure that our land is not misused by people who are educated, people who have wrong motives, and that kind of something or something. So we are looking at amending it so that we can find a better way to address this land ownership in our country. Thank you.
Honorable Member will not fly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me to Ms. Hanablo asking question along Minister of Petroleum. Just a bit of background. District Lobby hosting Latiola petroleum reserves. Kind of some Piniang, Ketu Elevara, Stanley, Douglas Pupu, among many or smaller reserves. Question Blumi specifically for PDL 10 long Stanley Gas Project. Suppose we can bring in Minister through you, Speaker. Long back then Minister Blo Petroleum been Nixon Duban. Been in 2015 a PDL license number 10. Blo this particular project was issued. Me been council president of this time. Me one long all been celebrate lo display. Na me been hosting display. The licensee were Horizon Oil and the core, Osaka and the rest. After 6 years, that is 2020, Horizon Oil, the licensee, which is holding PDL 10 license. When we say PDL license means you are now given an okay to go and develop, particularly just go down and develop him after you have met all the requirements. So in 2020, the licensee, the name is Horizon Oil, only been Salim display license, Eagle or Nalpla line, and Allen Energy. Now, Allen Energy holding display PDA license for just about 2 years. Now, recently, again, or Salim display license again, long Trench Wonderland, and record is stopped or same recently. I think it must happen last year or so. Now, couple of questions from me, Muslim. In my understanding, if a licensee is given a license to develop, why would they hold a license constantly not developing the project? Does it break the laws of this country? Number one question. Number two question. One by government through the ministry by making, do we have to penalize such licensees, people who constantly buy and sell the license forever? What do we do? Another question. Emerson, can the minister confirm or deny that the recent purchase of the licensee or the license from Allied Energy to Trench Wonderland has taken place? I'm need long answering whether his office, his department is aware. Then if he's aware, can he explain the people of Stanley Gas Project plus the Western Province people? On top of this plan, why would we constantly break laws of this country, constantly buying and selling the license? And one kind something that shouldn't happen in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Petroleum.
Thank you, Member of North Pilo. Good luck question. This is PDL 10 license and one problem license, Mr. Speaker. Right from the beginning, since that they all issued this PDL license, at the same time too signing one gas agreement. What that means is that you have to move to the final investment decision within 12 months now, after that move into construction. So since all signing this agreement, now close to 10 years now, there's been no movement. We are trying to managing this law because as best as we can. Up to now, there's been no compliance with the terms and conditions of the gas agreement that's been signed. There's been no compliance with the PDL 10 license all given. Development license means you must develop, but all not develop. So, time me come up Minister of Petroleum 2019, there was the intention to sell that to the incoming company, I'll call him Aran Energy. Now, at that point in time, all give me assurance that all by move ahead with the terms and conditions of the gas agreement plus the license conditions. Now, me play to okay, he could plan a fail or me play give me play opportunity to give it a go. Now only this last sale been concluded from Handler Repsol, one not play European company, he go inside Aran Energy. Now Aran Energy only more than 4 years now, close to 4 years now. But only got problem. This is a commercial model. All putting me inside long gas agreement, unworkable. Whether all by putting pipeline and different costs come down on numbers. Whether all by supplying gas or 30 and different costs, one and blame. But negotiation law want them 30 collapse. So business model law collapse, now only no able to implement in this gas agreement. So I'm sitting on same stuff. Now recently me animal sen only crime law salin go lo narpla organization channels and member me point him out. Me play no aware lo disla inogat one provision inside law oil and gas similar to the land act where minister by approving sales. Law lens transaction and minister of law lens got power law approving sale law interests in land. But law oil and gas act no got similar provision. So transaction it can take place outside na minister na department not all by giving me notice after sale completed. Now that's the first time by me come up aware. So we became aware that there was a further sale transaction from Aran Energy into another third party recently. Now 2 days ago, Secretary of Department of me and right he go back to Aran Nanto. Can you confirm and deny this particular transaction? And if it did take place, please provide all the documentation underpinning the transaction. So we as a department will understand. However, one thing people are pointing out as a department is that we maintain our position that all the positions we've taken in relation to any violations of the gas agreement that was signed in 2015 plus violation of any terms and conditions of PDL 10 license, those will be, we reserve our rights on all those violations and will take the appropriate statutory and administrative action that we as a department were entitled to. So we will not waver from that position remains. The sale of business interests only can walk him outside, but management, law license conditions, na gas agreement, and step inside law authority law department, law petroleum. Now we will continue to have that properly investigated, assemble all the necessary information. Now by me condition. Now one final point, Mila walking to. There's an application for a variation of the license conditions. Any staff finish law petroleum advisory board, I'm advised. So, we don't have preemptive one decision law, petroleum advisory board and all independent statutory authority, all by working decision in due course, whether or not they will approve the terms of that application for a variation to the existing license. So that's the current state of play. But the department reserves all its rights on any previous violations of the gas agreement. Now, PDL license may have been granted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me confirming by me advising member.
Honorable Member Blabao.
Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to ask a question without notice to the Honorable Minister for State-Owned Enterprises. Yesterday, I asked a question regarding provision of electricity to the rural masses through the off-grid mechanism. The question is in relation to the rural masses with regards to water security. Currently, Honorable Speaker, as you and I know, Water PNG is focused on profit-based water services, mainly providing services to cities. So when we ask for Water PNG to come to the district level, they say that is not profitable. And so we have to look for funds through DSIP, etc., etc. And so water services are delayed at the district level. But when you go down to the village level, village people find him hard straight. And given the climate changes and the recent dry spell, I think before Christmas, which affected New Guinea Islands, which affected the mainland, and people were really looking for sources of water, particularly our rural masses. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I for one believe that as a nation, we have not yet organized ourselves well with regards to water security for our rural masses. And like many developments that have been taking place, we focus on the closest places, urban cities for water, power, communication, etc., because it's easy to do those things. One classic example, Mr. Speaker, is just not far from here, is a settlement called Gereka. And the end of the water pipe is just a few kilometers from there. And Water PNG can meter them and make a lot of money. It also includes the Taurama Valley. And Water PNG can make a lot of money. But nothing has been done. And when you imagine the suffering of the rural masses, the question, Mr. Speaker, and my question to the Honorable Minister for State-owned enterprises is, given that we have not really focused on rural water services in our country, can, under the leadership of the Minister, can you rethink an arrangement? Because in the old days, through outside funding, the Department of Health in their little college in Medan was creating rural water systems, but due to lack of funding through European Union and other bilaterals and multilaterals, that program collapsed. So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe that there is a greater need right now, given the climate changes and the El Ninos that come and go. I think our rural masses have a problem with water security. Can I recommend to the Honorable Minister to look at a proposal for establishing whether in the existing Water PNG a rural component for water services to the rural masses? Or, my strong recommendation, could we establish a Rural Water Services Commission so that that entity can specifically look at the non-profit making components of water services to our country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister, State Enterprise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for this important question. Mr. Speaker, the last, about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a program that was initiated by both the World Bank and partly by United Nations called the WAS program, where the idea in principle was to extend the provision of water supplies from the main centers to the rural areas, or even from sources located within each affected village, to provide water to clean and safe drinking water to the affected community. So there was such a program, and also in the case of my electorate, we were also able to put aside some funds to qualify for this WAS program. So I am aware that there was a program. It is now up to all of us members to see whether, through the advice of the Department of National Planning, see whether that program is continuing. And if not, we can, as a government, ask the World Bank to help fund so we can provide a counterpart funding and try and extend this important service to all our villages. The main function, as we know, we look at the history of Water Board, was to provide water initially, and now it's now called Water PNG, initially to the rural, to the urban areas. Now, with the increase in the size of settlements and the other areas in the peripheries of the rural urban areas, the need for water is becoming more, and Water PNG is aware of it. And if we look at the case of the National Capital District, I have, in my capacity as the Minister responsible, directed Water PNG to look at extending water services past to the so-called end of the world, for instance, or the Taurama Valley, and past Bautamu, right past the Motoke Island, and of course further down to where the office of the rural and local level government council chambers on the other side. And the idea is to push water all the way down. So there is an ongoing process, and technical studies are currently being done by Water PNG to extend water service along that route. And that is a growth corridor for the expanding city. If you go to the other side, Mr. Speaker, if you go past the LNG plant side and you drive to that village, you will see that there is in fact an installation where water is being extracted by Water PNG and supplied to the villages there. And it is a good pilot project, and it is working. And the idea is that the villages together with through the LLG pay partly for the service, and the bulk of the cost to be maintained by Water PNG. So there's already a pilot project which is working very well in that part of our province, central province. So it is something that we can all look at, and I would urge all our members to seriously look at making a joint approach through our Department of National Planning to the World Bank to help fund this WASH program. And we can either set up another entity to just exclusively look at providing water service to rural areas and let Water PNG continue to provide service as a commercial entity, or a combination of both. So all of these options, Mr. Speaker, are available, and we can look at those. But I am ready to work with the members to help make sure that our people, especially in the rural areas, get access to safe drinking water. So, Mr. Speaker, to answer the question once again, yes, Water PNG will do its part by trying to provide water to the areas which are near the urban center of Port Moresby and other urban centers right throughout the country. And of course, if we take the example of the existing facility on the other side, where the LNG plant site is, it has demonstrated that it can work. So, provided our village leaders, community leaders, and the leaders work together with Water PNG, we can expand that system that's already operating very well to the other parts of the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member of Lokairogo.
Yeah. Ask him blomi no stop long notice paper go can long good plan Minister blo petroleum. Me got triple LLG long electric blomi make o kuni na Kairuku. Question blomi emol President na people blo Kairuku Nambis line or Kairuku LLG line from Kivori Maori in the border of Gulf to Hisiu or Tautu, which borders Manumanu, which is here requiring. Well, like Save through whether or not well, step inside long pipeline benefits and on it long UBSA and LBSA agreements or no God, because for so many years only at Woklo fight go come or some like conman 2 round collecting money law people na. He come now all man all plus line pressuring me through long President Lol. You may ogre save also minister to save you may member you know got look save and it law section 98 law organic law provincial and local level government. But all people were problem in now stop. So me like minister clear him whether all people Kairuku coastline LLG entitled long pipeline benefits or no God. So you may put him this matter long rest. Thank you.
Honourable Minister Petroleum.
This is one all project and operate 20 years now. Now, let on determinations and minister of this time been signing long time now Gazette in finish. So reference point to me now and look seems like Gazette now looking without money step inside law. Ministerial determination, yeah. So what I can do to assist the member is to requisition a copy of that Gazette now by mixing I give him now. And he got more understanding law all people blame now claims of pipeline corridor come through law district land. So from that point now I enough law understand whether all people now stop or no God. But my understanding is this, Mr. Speaker, that this is a determination of working long time now. Only man only got entitlement land, all kiss him finish. He can be coming up now, up to date. You know got one deferred payment or delayed payment outstanding. He up to date all get that. So as far as royalty payment, you go to Papa Ground concern, up to date from the department's one email. So upstream and me like got some issue, but pipeline corridor I'm up to date. So all people law district law member supposedly got some concern all in up law. As soon as gazetteally have been published, all in start list now feel all stuff all must have list. This is the time all not Karingolo court, but now I'm planning years now, right? No Karingolo court to him expire now. So if there is any residual group of people all think all got entitlement, right now I need to look at a low blue, it's a little bit too late law raising this like issue. You know good part talk part them also lot of talk let me be an talk. So one area where all can potentially share law site law royalty sharing and locked in. You can't name lo man, I go man straight. But development levy share law, central provincial government, that's an undivided money and stuff. So suppose all you can see that one time governor blue yumi block central province, all open member bung one time now only sinan round table now talk to good. All can look away plus scaling this like development levy now. You got pockets of people where me no karma pim now all still feel strongly them. And we look out in all time provincial governments in development levy share blame. It's like still for central provincial government every year. So this is like approach stuff also. But me by me sim copy block is settled now me by giving him honorable member and can from there I can work his way forward now by me can sit down one thing behind too now helping him when necessary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor Bloinga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question without notice goes to the Minister for Internal Securities. Mr. Speaker, I think plenty time mission upload is love floor of Parliament law to talk law now. I think plenty money must now take you. So me, Mr. Law and Order. But let me say this. We have a serious situation in this country in terms of law and order. We have to be serious. Seriousness compared to law and order stop where? Law and order is about life and death, security of our assets. You want to build business, you want to see the business sustained into the future. Without law and order, everything will collapse. Me looking plenty time in me, Mr. Speaker, me to law and order, and me Hamas was now national government. He put in more money, no police. Me Hamas law Islam, Mr. Speaker. But at the same time, he got bail heavy illegally on this allocation. Suppose you recruit him or police officer, now you got notice, you go outside. Long all young play, you can apply, long come up. Police man Mary. The problem is the culture. Culture is that the police force finish here. How about you mistreat him? Suppose police got one strategy, please, Minister, Mila ask him today. We cannot continue to increase number when there's a culture out there that is bad in the police force. Increase of number will only increase problems. We have to have a strategy in order to fix the existing issues in the police force. So my question for me, I'm now short again. Me Hamas the minister gives him leadership, long put him resources go. So me still believe also we have a long way to go. Now time you play advertise long, kiss him more manpower. Me like him you talk him nation. Time all this line young people man Mary, you go to police college. Usad by training all, usad by recruiting. If I got nepotism or no got, how about you straight him? This plan? You mean you can kiss him or druggies, you go inside the police force? Now two, time will finish. Lo bomana. Now go along all provinces and districts. Who said through supplementary more? So that's why some of us have been calling for outside help. And it looks like we've come to a stage where you're blaming passed on this level proposal. So if we have a strategy, the nation needs to know. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, me, kisin Mr. Time Law, because I'm a new player. Mr. Speaker, me, like wishing you now people blue belated season greetings. Na two, long, all got ministers, leaders, governors, long people blue me bill. Me, talk season belated greetings to you all. Governor, good luck, Governor Blumi Loenga. Question blue you, and one play important question. Na me just like giving you comfort also. Throughout this festive period, me no go celebrate him this period one time all people blow me. Working around the clock long, put him together this final piece long. This white paper blow you me long security. Na me like give you comfort too now people now leaders blow me also. Because of the challenges that you may face him one time, this culture that we are confronted with today, the first step that we've taken as a force is to distance the process of recruitment. We have independently given it outsourced it, so that we are arm's length to influencing those that we want to get into the force. We have compromised far too long, and so it is you leaders and our people's cry that we must take that stand, and so as a force we've outsourced that process. You got plenty of leaders today yet to walk along, ask him how Bami put him all selected young youths, you and set long, please. Na plenty feedback me, give him go back to you apply just follow the process. That is the only way we can start changing the culture, and the culture starts with us leaders. I want to encourage all of us. As I said from the onset, this is a collective effort from all of us. And this process will need all of us to collaborate and coordinate so that we ensure that the process selects the appropriate men and women into the force with good mindset, good values. And that's what we want. Once we start getting the appropriate people into the force, obviously the culture will change. And so me like giving you comfort. Cry blow you, na talk blow you, lo you me look outside too long. Support. My good governor, you me by got one meeting again one time of bilateral partners blow you me na this time one time. Australia long April long treaty you me walk long define him na refine him tete. M2 by look long you me to call him all support long come na. Further him help long all one time Yumi. So, Governor and my leaders, we have started a process, and the process has begun, and so we must believe in the process. In the first quarter, soon, I will deliver the white paper, and we will talk about some of the reforms and the actions that we're going to take as a government. And again, I just want to encourage all of us leaders. The culture starts with us. I need all your support to change that culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members. Me like Toksabe Sem, probably 5 minutes long. Asking me no Toksabe, me come no harreblon Sem. Leader of government business.
Guys, leave of Parliament to move a motion without notice.
Is leave granted? Leave granted? Leader of government business?
Mr. Speaker, I move that so much of the standing orders. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I ask for leave of absence be granted to the Honourable Opposition Leader, Honourable Joseph Lelang, and the Honourable Member for Pogara, who are currently missing out on this session because of health issues.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honourable members, grievance debate now. Honourable Minister of Higher Education, Member of Kandep.
Speaker, thank you. I'd like to seek your leave of the chair to answer to some questions without notice raised by the Deputy Leader of the Opposition the other day in my absence.
Well, Minister, by you ask him leave the Parliament. So Parliament he grant him you leave by. You can answer him this question.
Well, through your chair, I'd like to seek leave of the Parliament to give me a few minutes, 5 minutes to answer to some questions asked last in this Parliament in my absence. Thank you.
Is leave granted? Leave granted, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Parliament, for giving me granting me the leave. There were some questions raised, 5 questions, and I'll read them and I'll answer them briefly. Why most students who scored high GPA is not given a place in the universities? First question, Mr. Speaker. The second question was why students are given placing in the universities that are not of their preferences or choices. Number 3 question was why students who met the required GPA are placed in the selection pool. Number 4, the 4th question, can the Minister admit or deny there is academic fraud in the online selection system? And the 5th question was the question that asked regarding review the online selection system and processes and establish a fair solution in the process. I do acknowledge those questions as very important because the school years are starting and the questions raised regarding the students is very important. I'd like to answer in the following, but also before I answer, Mr. Speaker, I have got the Department Secretary to publish this on the newspaper regarding some clarifications so can be seen on the papers as well and also in the social media. A brief explanation to this, but I'll answer in the following. The first question, students at high school doing grade 12 are using National Online Application System called the National Online Application NOAS, and they have options of 5 choices. So it's not like they're doing without the involvement of the students themselves. They can choose 5 different programs as preferred by a grade 12 school leaver. The students do the application. The selection system provides information for his program with clear and distinctive requirements, preferences and residential options. C, the National Online Application System is open for 3 months. Thus, students have more time for decision making. D, students' application must be met to social programs, exams combinations, and requirements of a university or higher education institution. E, the national application system increases chances for admissions through subject combination matching. F, Mr. Speaker, please note that GPA is not the single requirement considered as a factor in program selection ranking. Selectors at institutions of higher learning and universities insert into the system use complex ranking order in the round of selections. And finally, for the first question, institutions of higher learning and universities set up criteria to ensure that their students reach the highest academic competencies during their studies. This resulted in a few students with good GPA not being selected because of the standard set. Answer to the second question. It is impossible for a student to be selected to a different university or a higher education institution if she or he didn't include in the 5 choices. The National Online Selection System works as follows. A, student is applying by using the National Online Application System. It is digital. In the system, the student has 5 different options to select the institutions of higher learning, as I alluded to earlier. B, the National Online Selection System is selecting a student in accordance of the choices he or she has made, the requirements of the institutions and the quota which the institution has of how many students can be enrolled at each program. Each program has limited number of spaces to enroll students. C, the system is selecting students who are meeting all the requirements of the institution and with the highest GPA score. For example, the National Online Selection System starts to select students with GPA 4. And if the code is filled with the students having GPA 4 and meeting all the requirements, then all other students with GPA 3.9 unfortunately will not be selected because you have that competition right there. D, Mr. Speaker, therefore the system looks at the second or third or fourth or fifth choice of the student and similar program. Thus, the student is selected according with other choices made. And E, the system cannot select student to an institution if the student did not include the higher education institution or the university on the list of choices. And finally, it is easy to find out evidence just to get the name of the student and ask the student to open her or his account on the online application system, and everyone can see if the students apply to institutions or not. The system cannot and will never select students to university or institution if the student did not apply. So the evidence is there in the application that the students made in the computer system. So it is evident there's no fraud involved. When students' results were made available in the system, students were able to view the choices and make the required changes during the grace period. Now to the third question, Mr. Speaker. Students who met the required GPA are placed in the selection pool for the following reasons. First reason, they did not meet all the requirements and criteria for the university or higher education institution they applied to. And second reason is there were students with higher GPA, and because of limitation related to space available, they are not selected, and some of the answers I have given earlier. And finally, the student subject combination did not match the subject combination required by the university or higher institution. Now, answering the fourth question, there is no academic fraud in the National Online Selection System or the National Application System, Mr. Speaker, because of the following. There is a digitalized program which is specifically designed and developed for our universities and all higher institutions in Papua New Guinea, which considers subject combinations, spaces available, criteria established by the institution, and GPA required. Secondly, with full confidence, I can state that there is no academic fraud in the manner in which students are selected. Please provide me, I would like to ask the leader, provide me any list of students who complained that they were selected to different institutions, they did not apply, or if they met all the requirements specifically and were not selected. I'd like to have a list because this is a very important point the deputy leader would have raised, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to address them. So ask him to give me the list of those students who he felt or complained to him that they was affected. And finally, on the fourth question, I will provide you with evidence from the student online application system to prove that there were academically better students with higher GPA, and also I will provide evidence from the student's own application that the student included institution to which he or she was selected. So there was no any fraud played there. And finally, Mr. Speaker, no system is perfect, and there is always room for improvement. It goes without saying that as the minister responsible for this sector, this space that I'm entrusted with, I will ask for a report, and we will work with higher education institutions and put together our ideas to review and improve, because I believe that the systems can be improved, any system can be improved from the current status quo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, time now long grievance debate. Honourable Governor Blong, Northern Province.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My grievance debate will consist of a number of concerns that I just wish to raise here. One is in relation to a recent newspaper report whereby a foreigner, an expatriate, a foreign citizen living in Papua New Guinea, was brought before the courts, the district courts, and fined after having been found guilty of having in his possession a particular type of narcotic, a hard drug known as amphetamines, of a significant quantity apparently, for which in any other country or in many countries, the sentence is quite severe. Especially, let's say, in the Asian countries, where this type of offense would attract the death penalty or serious pecuniary action consisting of time in jail and then deportation, blacklisting of that particular individual so that that individual never comes back to that country. And that is how those countries deal with such serious matters, transnational crimes of that type. In fact, of all types. But in Papua New Guinea, we have fined this individual, and according to the newspapers, we have suspended his sentence, and we have allowed him to virtually walk out free. No wonder we are attracting the worst type of people into this country, who are rushing to do as they please, exploit this nation, take advantage of this weak situation or these laws that don't exist or exist but are not enforced. This is an insult to our people. Meanwhile, a Papua New Guinean, if he had been caught with a gram of, say, cannabis, he would have been severely punished, beaten, maybe even shot, sent to jail, spent hard time, years. There's something wrong here. Minister for Internal Security and Minister for Justice, this has to be looked into. So what's going to happen to this individual? Will the Department of Labor conduct an investigation into his work permit and cancel it? Will the Department of Immigration also follow through, determine what type of work permit, visa he was granted and cancel that visa and arrange for his deportation? What's going to happen to this individual? Or will he be allowed to stay here and continue operating at large at will and whim, and essentially telling everyone else from other countries who are here doing similar things, this is what you can do in this country called Papua New Guinea. You can get away with this. Why not? I wanted to raise this here because I think something serious needs to be done as a deterrent to these type of individuals, to these type of criminals. We can't be a wide open country where criminal cartels and their agents can just come in here at will and whim and do whatever they want, and then we just fine them and then let them to go out, do as they please and continue. This is happening throughout the whole country. In so many instances, this is just one example, where criminals like this are engaging in this type of crimes and getting away with it. Before that, we read about a sex syndicate operated by a Sri Lankan national. What's happened to that Sri Lankan national and those persons involved who were perpetrating those crimes against children, I might add, where in other countries these are very serious offenses. But here we are basically letting them walk around free, do as they please. Unbelievable. And on that note, I want to state, Minister for Internal Security, there used to be an organization within the police department called the Transnational Crimes Investigation Unit. This organization was established for the purposes of investigating these type of transnational crimes. I'm very familiar with that organization because I used to be the coordinator at one stage for customs. And it consisted of the police, customs, immigration, and from time to time the NIO. But this organization, well, it exists, but it's a shadow of its former self. It gets no funding. All the officers that were trained, we ensured they were trained abroad, have been displaced or sent and dispatched to other areas where they are no longer able to perform their duties as investigators or intelligence operatives investigating or carrying out activities to interdict transnational crimes. What's happening with that organization? Right now, that organization should be expanding, growing, with the growing threats that are posed upon this country by transnational criminals. And let me not start about the NIO, which at the turn of independence in 1975, we had 150 NIO operatives, intelligence officers in this country, operating under that organization. Today, we have less than 30. Every other country, when the country grows and expands with the expansion of the economy, and there is therefore an increase in threats and opportunities, they also expand the intelligence community. But in Papua New Guinea, we've actually allowed it to shrink. It's like gouging your eyeballs out and blocking your ears so you don't hear and see threats. That's what we have done consistently. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to raise those points and urge those ministers responsible for these areas to do something about this, to protect this country and its citizens. I mean, we can't have foreigners coming here and exploiting our children and then getting away with it, selling hard drugs and then getting away with it, carrying out various type of activities and getting away with it, being fined. 10,000 kina, what's that? That's less than $2,000. Whereas next door in Indonesia, he would have gone straight to jail, he would have been executed by the end of this year. We are sending the wrong signals to the world out there. We are telling them that Papua New Guinea is wide open for exploitation by these type of entities, this type of criminals, this type of cartels. That's not the message we want to send out. Mr. Speaker, I also want to make some comments in relation to the recent laws passed, the bill that was brought here by the Minister for Commerce and Trade in regards to restricted activities. This is great, great news. My question is, how are we going to enforce this? Because the IPA doesn't do that. If you look at the IPA structure, they are a structure designed merely to rubber stamp organizations that are coming here to be created as business entities or associations. They're not out there enforcing the law. I mean, they can take a drive from wherever they're operating in this province, I mean, in Port Moresby, and they can see many of these laws being breached. What are they doing about it? So if they can't enforce the existing laws, how are they going to enforce these laws? That's my question in relation to that bill. We are great at passing laws. Enforcing them is another thing. We don't do very well in that area. So when whoever it is from whatever country is here, let's say he gets a company registered for operating in Port Moresby, carrying out the business of, say, a hardware, but then he's ended up in another province buying gold and exporting it. How are we dealing with that? This is a real situation. This happens throughout the country. What's IPA doing about that? So if they don't have the enforcement mechanism, if they don't have within their structure an investigations unit, a prosecutions unit, then how are they going to enforce the law? The laws that we are passing here and congratulating ourselves and feeling great about. How are they going to do that? Are they going to refer it to the police? Well, police can't do it because the police are already overwhelmed. And the unit that probably could do it is not even funded and thus hardly exists anymore. What we have to do is take a very firm posture against this type of individuals and companies that are coming to this country. Enforce the law. Ensure that we send the right signals out. And not entertain them and give them fines and suspend the sentence and allow them to wander around, do whatever they want again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor Morbe.
Previous debate to debate. At the first instance, I want to fully concur with the point raised by the Honorable Governor for Oro Province, that the punishment that was given to this foreigner who have committed a serious offense in this country, very serious, in the sense that the drug that was possessed by him and consumed by him or distributed by him, and the ramification to the extent that when people consume it or have distribution, is likely to endanger the lives of Papua New Guinean citizens. It's a serious matter, Mr. Speaker, and I fully concur with the speech by Governor for Oro. And Governor for Oro, I want to help you and recommend to the Attorney General of this country to speak to the public prosecutor that he exercises his power under the Public Prosecutors Act or the Constitution to appeal against the sentence. This country is not a country where you can play around. And I want to strongly recommend that his sentence should be appealed. It should be appealed because it's just too lenient. This country is an independent country. This is not a colony of Australia or a colony of some European countries. This is a country. We got independence in 1975. It's an independent country. We can't allow the foreigners to come in here and play games with our lives, play games with our laws. No, in the whole wide world. Because you don't enjoy that in their country. Surely not. And I want to recommend to the Attorney General, take a tougher measure. If the law, the penalty is very lenient, consequence of which was he was discharged, then recommended the higher penalty should be enacted by this parliament. This parliament's got all the powers in the world to recommend for the enactment of tough punishments. Mr. Speaker, so I fully concur with him. And I want to add on, Mr. Speaker, in relation to the questions that I raised before you for your understanding, so you can help in the formulation of the constitutional question to the Constitutional Court, the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we're facing in the provincial government, I don't know other provincial government, but I see my friend in the Enga province is fully concerned with what we're trying to do here and to achieve here. Section 10 of the Organic Law on Provincial and Local Level Government provides the constitution of the Assembly. That is, that who's supposed to be in the Assembly is specified under Section 10. Unfortunately, that Section 10 was amended. Section 10 was amended to take away the Council of Presidents and the representative of the Lord Mayor if there's in the province where they have plenty heaven council, then the Section 10 requires that one of them will represent them in the provincial assembly. Unfortunately, Honourable Speaker, what happened is that the Morobe provincial government challenged it, challenged the amendment to that section which took away the council presidents who were supposed to be there by virtue of that section formally. And Mr. Speaker, they plus other matters there. And the Supreme Court fully agreed, 5-man bench fully agreed, that under Section 187 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution, the Provincial Assembly must be constituted of mainly elected leaders, not appointed leaders, elected leaders, under Section 187. And therefore, to have more appointed members in the Provincial Assembly was contrary. When the organic law removed the council president from the assembly, that left behind more appointed members plus the elected members of the open elected in the respective provinces. So the Supreme Court struck down that amendment, and Supreme Court ruled that that section, that amendment was unconstitutional. Now, Mr. Speaker, that does not automatically mean, or at that time didn't mean, that the council president or the whole of the council president and the representative of the LLG should come automatically to the provincial assembly. The Supreme Court made its decision by ruling the constitutional duty to rule illegal or legal, and they did rule that it's illegal, and when it ruled, that doesn't, as I said, they didn't mean that all of the LLG president automatically come to the assembly. That required the parliament, Honourable Speaker, required the parliament to amend the organic law, to have them brought to the provincial assembly, which the parliament, from the time the Supreme Court entered on its decision, has not made any amendment until now. So my argument is that the government should be urged, the present government should be urged, and I'm urging them now as I speak to them, to make sure that we make an amendment so that we bring the council president to the provincial assembly under Section 10, which is amended, but surely amendment will be amendment to Section 10 again, Mr. Speaker. So that's done. And another matter, Mr. Speaker, I raised is in relation to the section, which I'm not able to quote to you right now, but it's there. It's the section which talks about the District Planning and Budget Priority Committee, which should constitute of governor being the deputy chairman, and the chairman should be the district member, and the LLG president and other appointed members should be there. That section, in my view, has not been amended. It's just still there. And in the face of it, you have a DDA, District Development Authority Act, which brings in the member, open member, and the council president and other appointed members. And then when you look at the functions of the DDA, it's almost the transplant of that section which establishes the District Planning and Budget Priority Committee. So there is a duplication, clear duplication there. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm arguing to this Parliament that there is clearly DDA which is fighting against that section, organic law section, which established the DDA, District Planning Budget Priority Committee. There is a fight there, and that act is an act of Parliament, is insubordinate to the organic law, and therefore is unconstitutional. And therefore, I recommend that Mr. Speaker, you should refer the matter to the Supreme Court for its opinion. And secondly, the City Development Authority is also unconstitutional in my view, Mr. Speaker, because it violates Local Level Government Act, And Local Level Government Act is the one, and the only one that's the power to establish authority. Only one is power to establish authority. And to establish authority by other means is also unconstitutional. I say that because local level government is a three-tier government. It's one of the three tiers government of this country, Mr. Speaker. So I need your, Mr. Speaker, for your assistance. I'll draft a question and bring them back to you to assist you to decide whether you should refer the matter to the Constitutional Court to determine, Mr. Speaker. And finally, when I have the 2 minutes, I want to support the Governor Ipata's point that law and order is breaking down in this country. And surely, Governor is right. We're in the province that we're managing. We're a government at the first instance where the people are, and we can see and vividly see there is a clear ineffectiveness of the police that they're there. Ineffectiveness because, Mr. Speaker, the government has not exercised its power, exercised its constitutional obligation under Section 225 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution. Section 225 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution, Mr. Speaker, says the government has an obligation to provide facilities to the constitutional office, one of which is police. And they have not. Budget is all talking about district planning, DDA, and all whatever provincial support grant or all of those things. We're not talking about providing sufficient money to the constitutional office, example like police, sufficient enough to carry out its constitutional obligations. Make sure there is law and order in this country. We're not doing it. And then finally, policeman on lap one penis. Plenty policeman on lap one penis. Why you keeping plenty lap one police staff? This is law and order. Travel and young man make him. You know, old man make him. Young man make him. Now you need more recruitment. Young man by coming inside to fight against a young man. Young man versus young man. That's why you may train him all policeman and more skilled, disciplined young man to fight against. And when resources, when we provide, they can do the job. So, Mr. Minister, me no crossing you, me country, or send me talk to you. You will love one love symbol now. Put the new money go inside. Money go inside. Fight one time government. Put the money go inside. Me not show him you yet. I need a Section 225 yet. Me not put him you go to court yet. Because I'm right below me. So me go marry because me member of parliament. So what's me outside me continue.
Honorable Governor Morbe,
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor Morbe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
10-minute play
Thank
finish
you,
now.
thank you.
Me look sabelo Honorable Member of Yele Bupangya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, me too, me like working legally contribution lo sambla totoki Governor blo Morbe working. Lo sideway totok lo provincial government na DDA na Joint Budget Priority Committee. O this totok, yes, I'm true. Also, Supreme Court working sambla decision. Working sambla decision, and it's incumbent on this Parliament and, of course, government to review that decision and make the appropriate changes to the legislation so that we can correct some of the issues that have been going wrong since the reforms that took place, and subsequent governments have been trying to correct it. Mr. Speaker, there is a concern. The organic law and, of course, the Constitution says that elected members in any assembly must be elected to one house only. Whether it's a National Assembly of National Parliament or Provincial Assembly or local level government council. That law is very clear. But we continue to breach that. Now we have governors and members of parliament and, of course, presidents of LLGs who are members of the provincial government. We are only supposed to be members of one legislature. And that is that if we are elected to this parliament, we are supposed to be members of parliament only, not all in two positions. So the issue is about total reform. Whether this house has got the ability to make those tough decisions, where the governors are prepared to go back to the provinces and run the provinces, where the members of parliament are prepared to be just members of this house only. where the presidents of LLGs are prepared to be the presidents at LLG only. That is why some of the changes we tried to make was that at the provincial level, the initial state was for the LLG presidents to go back to the LLGs and get the provincial government and the national government to fully fund them properly so they can be operational at that level. And Mr. Speaker, where that provincial members should be elected directly like we used to do before. So they become members of the provincial assembly. And of course they become chairmen and so forth. So this is the challenge that we have in this house. We don't necessarily have to go back to court to do our job. We must be prepared to make those tough decisions. The decisions that if we are prepared to not try and control everything. The issue about DDA is because in many provinces throughout the country, even the provincial government is not looking after the districts. They are starving them of funding. Especially when there's political differences, most of those districts that are on the opposite side don't get any funding, zero funding whatsoever. The people in those districts, Mr. Speaker, are citizens of this country, are members of your province. They deserve education, they deserve health services, they deserve better roads, they deserve power and water and everything else that we take for granted. So, Mr. Speaker, it is about leadership and political will for us to making these tough decisions. And I understand where the governor is coming from, thinking that we are now going to continuously fund districts and not forget about the provinces. But in the wisdom of our forefathers, they have created these three-tier governments for us. They knew that leadership must be at every level, at community, at district, at the province, and at the national level. And their wisdom is right, Mr. Speaker. We need to capture that and honor that and, of course, drive and put our thoughts in making sure that that works in this country. And, of course, the funding goes directly and there's no blockages along the way. And that is why when we created DDA, that is because we didn't want the blockages at the levels of government where none of the funds that even our budget provides for ends up in the district. Some districts become as if they are not even part of this country. Today, at least we get some funding through these districts where we can now continue to maintain roads and maintain services that our people deserve. That is why we have the DDA. DDA is not a legislative or structure of government. It is not taking the role of local level government. It is not taking on the role of the provincial government, but it is a service delivery mechanism where they are controlling some funding to make sure that the minimum services go down. And I understand that the Prime Minister made an announcement in Medan that he will increase the funding to 20 million to each district. Now that is welcome news. But you know, even today we are struggling to fund the 10 million, so let's get that out of the way first. Before putting all our expectations too high, and every citizen in this country thinks that every member of parliament is receiving that kind of money. When in fact we are not. Some of us are getting 5-6 million kina a year. But we maintain services to continue to flow to our people. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the call by the Governor for Enga and Governor for Morobe. Let's review this. Now, governors don't have to come into this honorable house and they have a province to run. But give them the money to go and run this province. They're here because some of them, because they are not getting the funding, so they have to go and follow the Prime Minister around and ministers around, so make sure that the funding continues to come to the provinces. Mr. Speaker, let us remind ourselves that we are legislators. We are not elected to follow checks around in Wagani Swamp. We are legislators. We have to provide the vision and the plans for our country to be developed through legislature.
We have a point of order. What's your point of order, Honorable Governor?
Mr. Speaker, I'm curious because the last time I mentioned the word Wagani Swamp here, I was asked to withdraw that by yourself. But it's been mentioned again, so I'm curious. Are we having double standards here? What's going on? But I do agree with much of the debate by the honourable member for Yalibu Pangia.
Thank you.
Yes, valid
Point of
points.
order, you, honorable member of Yala Bupangia. And point of order, is threat you are Sumoigan is swamp.
Waigani Swamp exists, Mr. Speaker. Waigani Swamp exists. If you don't know, I'll take you there myself.
Literally, yes, Waigani swamp may exist, but inside the context of talk, yeah, you know, mean Waigani swamp.
All right, me replace him. Me not withdraw him, but me replace him with the Waigani Center. Am I right?
Me all right.
So me talk also. Now we are going to Waigani chasing for checks and projects. And members of parliament and governors should not be doing that. They should be given the allocations that they deserve and allocated in the budget directly so that they can stay home and do some work. Our people are in need of that attention. And it is important that this Honourable House works together, and we will support this. If there are serious reforms coming through, make the adjustments in the provincial government structure and, of course, the LLGs, we are prepared to support that. So, Mr. Speaker, DDA is not a bad concept. It is not a bad concept. And some of the leaders, because we are not working together, we think it is not working. But where some of us are working well, it is delivering the services to some of the remotest places that never received services before, only because of that funding. So, Mr. Speaker, let's try and make sure that we have accountability in the discharge of those funds, and then it will work. The delivery of services will continue to go down to the people who truly deserve. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the second issue that I want to bring up is about the economy. Mr. Speaker, I know that the budget allocated for some support for our men and women and citizens in this country because of the cost of living that is continuously going up. Today, the prices are continuously being driven upwards almost on a weekly basis. If you go shopping, you will see basic goods that our people are depending on, our prices are too high. When is the government going to establish the Price Controller's Office? The responsibility has been passed on to ICCC, but now we realize that ICCC is overwhelmed, and they're understaffed to go and inspect prices at every level. And I think it is important that some of these traders out there are overcharging our people, Mr. Speaker. And our people are really suffering. They can't even 3 meals a day. They're going down to one or no meal. And this is a serious concern that our government and this House needs to address. And the second point relating to that, Mr. Speaker, while the prices of goods are going up, prices of services are going up, wages has not increased. We need to establish the minimum wages board immediately, Mr. Speaker, and tell them to review the wages for ordinary men and women in this country. Why is it that it is so difficult to establish that board? Why is it difficult to direct them to go out there and start having meetings and consultations to review the wages so that it can be in line with inflation and the growth of the increases that the prices of goods and services in this country? So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important also, we may look at assembly this or something immediately. We are looking at big things, but we are not looking at small things that matter to our people. So, I'm grievance Blamilo today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Give me time to work in this lady talk. Thank you.
Honourable Member Pomio.
Thank you, through Mr. Speaker. I also want to join the debate today, the grievance debate, on one particular topic. Firstly, my point on DDA. Some of us have seen a lot of good things done in our respective districts, especially my district that was seemed to be one of the forgotten districts for so many years. And I believe DDA is part of a decentralization program where we empower the local people, our own people, to actually make things happen at our level. So I think I support DDA arrangement. My grievance debate is based on the several questions were asked this week to the Minister for Petroleum and Energy. I want to say that we talk about economic empowerment at the local level, but there's a need for us today to have a reliable energy program. Mr. Speaker, I want to take us back to the signed agreement made by 4 countries during the APEC arrangement in 2018. There was an arrangement signed by the government of Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and America, US, to commit. They committed about, it was about 1.7 billion US dollars, and the amount related to about 6 billion kina, lo money blo yumi. It's about 4 years ago, Pinis, I asked this question several times to previous ministers on what the government has done, whether to actually give us some undertaking on what the government has planned to actually implement this particular arrangement. The same kind of response that we've been receiving since the last couple of years. Like and this week doing back same also the department. I know that the government has passed the National Energy Authority Act, Law 2021. But the point is, we still talk about coming up with a regulation. A regulation, come up yet for the last couple of years. If you ask him the same question, who's going to do this regulation? Can we have some people committed to doing this job? Some of our districts, we need to have power. We need to have energy supporting our programs at the district level. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to give some priority, some commitment to making sure that the regulation for the National Energy Authority Act is in place, and the funding that is committed by by the partners during the APEC arrangement. We have no idea whether this arrangement is in place. What is the phase of progress at the moment? We need to have some idea on this one. According to reports, about 13% of country blowing only got access to power. That leaves about 87% of people blowing only got power, including my district. We have a lot of plans, economic activities happening at the moment in my district, so as many of our districts, and we need to have this. And I'm calling for some kind of feasibility study that is funded by the government right across our country to establish a system where there's feasibility for energy source to happen in our country. So, today, Mr. Speaker, I think the minister this week can respond to also. They're still working on the regulation for the energy authority, So you may like get get a commitment again from the ministers responsible to get whoever is responsible to make some commitment and time to this, so that we next time when we ask this question again to the minister, we expect a different positive undertaking than coming up with. We're still working on this, and we can come up with this in the next, talking about the next few months or next few years. And I believe we can continue to do this. Mr. Speaker, it is so important that we need to have energy in our country, and especially the power grid. I'm aware that the Australian government has come up with the FTN arrangement, or we call him also the Australia Powering Community Project, because our government is not doing all this. Or one Australian country making broadlet and stuff. So suppose him making one time, I believe our government should take charge of this and have the energy team or department that is in place, put up a program and get the government funding to support this arrangement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor of Western Highlands.
Speaker, me make him correction, me Governor of Western Islands. In the Eastern Islands.
No.
Thank you.
Me call him straight Western Highlands. You know how to make it.
Okay, thank you. Happy New Year, Lord you, Speaker.
Yeah.
Me like talk Happy New Year, all got members of Parliament, ministers, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister. Me yet like walking on the statement. I mean through all speeches and statements from members of Parliament, ministers. So much has been said for the councillors and presidents. Like me one president, law council, me come law parliament, and the local level government service you looking organic law the organic law was purposely based on council, local level government. Suppose law making bottom-up planning, the whole government and council, local level government, council and foundation law government. And then we have the provincial government and the national government. But today, law caucus na two law parliament, me arim plenty of leaders, work like at plenty grievances law councillors na presidents. Me like talk savvy law parliament also. Councillors today, me all councillors, local level government, all member of parliament pay him 1,000 kina lokamap member nomination fee. Now me all councillors pay him 200 kina to become a councillor. But you all member of parliament, sim fortnight, you every fortnight. But me all councillors, there's like 200 kina, you may pay him nomination. A fortnight all not sim, but all sim form of allowance every month. But that allowance has not been given. As you, me, I am one member of parliament, been talk allowances blow. Now, kind of say me too, no sim some allowance blow me for 1 year and become the parliament too. So, government to me no look savvy local level government. Local level government no got money lo give service to all districts. All councillors, law highlands, you may get big politics through local councillors. But me like talk savvy lawyer, number one, local level governments representing national government, provincial government, na and face belong government like one black community. Now me feeling also government and me overlooking local level government for too long. Now plenty time all councillors, na presidents, plenty helping long all governors, na provincial government, all open members. Na mibla all councillors, na presidents, mibla come a victim through long plenty time. Where now you may are plenty all open member, all no feeling good blood or some blood presence blood councillors la community because last term all probably stop on them all previous open members. Now all new member come in parliament too. All member feeling all non up work on them all. But I'm in a wrong blow. Because organic law it talk also all councillors and presidents must work boom one time all open members. All also chairman blame me. So Lord is like me like appeal through long. Parliament also previous government only must pass in some law also local level governments. Low ward level only must see some money. Me making some research also. All servers look sim 10,000 kina lo 1 ward member long. Some can development funds. But I think it coming up now. This like money only no sim too. Not to allowance blow to all no sim for too long. Now too you me will talk lo pass him some law where you me can rouse him all councillors long. Our ward committee. Or law provincial government, no this la. Me also one black councillor, now me come up lawyer also governor. Now you make got governor also pedebators to stop. Now maybe some member to you also council presidents before. Me feel him also for good governance representation of councillors and presidents long. Provincial government, local level government, law committee, and me feel him very, very important. Sabes all currents la meta go la court too. Government ba court ba look save too. So also statement blow me like raising tasol of law na. Some can look save must come up long local level government na behind you can also talk lo straight or work side. You blow open member, you got 10 million. You mean provincial government got budget. What about the local level government? The government but look savvy too or also general statement blow me making the floor of parliament. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Member Long. Here inquiry.
Mr. Speaker,
Speaker, me too, like, ultimately, Belevi blow me. I'm not very content with much of the discussions, and particularly this morning, we've had some questions raised by, very important questions raised by the member for Koilala. The member for Koilala asked a question pertaining to representation or local standing or legal standing to participate in development forum. I think that is what he wanted to articulate about this morning. But his question was not adequately responded to, and it will go over our heads if we do not, you may not address him good, ask him. I'm asking him, time all developments are come up. Na sili story or talk machines sa para po sem, wala kain development come up lo, wala area. Then how come na, mibla all district leaders, all open members, or district, usati give custody na mandate or look out him all interest of people or side of development. All you know sa, they all stop sideline taso na look as a spectator. All you know sa participate lo sila discussion. Inap go inap la development forum too. Emol man yet sa sindaw niya emol governor one time, president or local government taso na sindaw lo cutting pig. Na time heavy sa come up, o kata sa ron kam lo district ken. Also pa ni masa lo district lo straight him heavy blow 1-1 people. Sambla more discussions you talk lo tete, you talk lo customary land. You talk customary land, you talk lo people la interest lo people blow you me. Port Moresby a classic example. Na two sample grievance debate come up lo member lo yali pangia, talk lo welfare lo people lo side lo pay lo all. Sidelong price control because economy balance too much. We probably man Mary stop lo place also look him light lo most look him light lo lay light lo we work no gonna come flock come inside lo town. Also come because look him was I think me by getting good opportunity lo stop lo life lo picnic lo me too. Or by getting good school, by getting access lo health service or by getting work. But time will come up, 20 black, 30 black Christmas will stop Mosby, Lay, Hagen, na one map about. No got opportunities have come up long. They are outside of the system. Budget imog lo parliament lawyer na passive na karangol people almost are looking. Because there's an elite capture and it's locked away in the formal legal system. Ask him some time he miss look Lord. As the Prime Minister of Australia come go inside and come na talk. He comes from a developed nation where 200 plus Christmas he go finish. I've seen development long. In fact, 250 plus Christmas he finish. Australia come up from the developed nation. You got plenty more countries also in Australia yet. United States, it's a 300-year-old jurisdiction. It's tested systems is stop long on. United Kingdom, close to 800 black Christmas will stop on black democracy. Point is, we are fixing, unfixing, fixing and unfixing things. The Oil and Gas Act, Section 31, talks about conditions of grant and petroleum prospecting licenses. Now you go Tamblo or Tok law, clan vetting. I even hear this. I even heard Section 47 of the Oil and Gas Act talks about developing companies to take the responsibility of vetting clans. This law company come low when them say blow anthropology blow mean passing no tumuna blow mean all by pointing out clan true clan and this law that black clan. When them speciality belong on. The LG to imoglo talk yeah. It's a failed theory of somebody. That's why it's been abused day in day out. That needs to go. It is not rocket science. 6 Mile, my people have always been traveling outside of Port Moresby. The member for Karaku lives in Brown River because his house is there. He has to travel to and from. The fringes of Port Moresby is inundated by our people from Central Province and other parts of Papua New Guinea have come and found extra legal ways to live. Not illegal, but extra legal ways to live life. We can't chase these people away. We need to formalize their situation. formalize them into the formal global economy, where all two can look long. They can take out loans by virtue of a special interest that we create. This is where it's all done. Taking the point that we should go to Supreme Court, I too beg to differ respectfully. You know, logo court, emia, place long Parliament. That's why Misanablo election are gonna talk about people, Sally me gonna me gonna send him law. Well, this is where we change the laws. Good laws. So that people can be happy. When I talk about land, I'm not just talking about Motokoita, I'm talking about all of you and all of our people in the rural sector. These gazillions of money in the last few years have been put into the agriculture sector. When I'm kake blongem, agriculture is coffee tasol, agriculture is oil palm tasol, agriculture and cottage industry stuff, vegetable stuff. People say kake kangkong every day. But how do you formalize this economy? Let's ask the question. It's been done in many other countries. If we just formalize the land bank, if we just formalize tenure, if we just formalize its collateral activity economically, capital markets will open up to us. This is an economically proven, well-renowned agenda I'm discussing. The World Bank recognizes this philosophy I speak of. It is not a foreign concept. If we just only increase the economic activity, even from the micro level, then we will see. I can assure you, we will see growth rate at 4 to 13 to 15% GDP. I assure this country. Our people need real answers, not acquisitions, not vetting by foreign companies. Client vetting is a special agenda. It requires special technical support. It needs specialized attention. It requires some real good thinking. Corruption and everything will go if we just get to the root cause. We keep corrupting the system, creating extra legal systems through very fancy administrative means is not the answer. That is corruption, when we talk about corruption. But if we legislate properly, then we will see some real fruitful results. I am certain, and I'm 100% sure. I'm heavy me like Karakamati. Bless belong. Thank you na. Mina volume plenty time too much, but God can bless you gata na ting too can come up good. Thank you all.
Honorable Member Abao.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to participate in a very short version of the grievance debate. For the first time, Honorable Speaker, sitting down in a grievance debate session of this Honorable House over the last 20 years. This is the first time I have felt that this Honorable House is now beginning to fully realize its true purpose. In my last grievance debate, I did say, Honorable Speaker, that you as head of the legislature must control the committees of this Honorable House. You must be well funded. So after a session of Parliament like this time, after we vote on the Governor General, all the committees should begin to work. Not going home and be project managers. Problem blow you me. We come here and we have forgotten our role as legislators. We are picking up the role as project managers. So we communicate with the finance minister, the planning minister, the treasurer. We argue that this district hasn't got that much. When are you going to release our money? Most of the time we are becoming project managers. And so, Honorable Speaker, 3 years away, we are going to turn 50 years old. And through mania in the life of a human being, 50 years I am experience is tough, survey is tough, strong staff. And so I strongly recommend, Honorable Speaker, that the executive government establish a support the Constitutional Law Reform Commission in a big way and the Parliamentary Committee on Laws in a big way, so that we then say which laws are outdated in this country. Let's list them down. One of them must go finish. No time for it here in this country. Outdated. Put it down, we come to the floor, rouse him. Why them law by you may need him? Why them provision of the Constitution? 48 years old, 50 years soon. It's time for us to review and use the hindsight, 50 years of development experience, and come and say, Mama Law, you have guided us this far. People are like, send him now for the next 50 years. Who is going to do that? This House here? And so the discussion today, on the debate today, is more than what the role of this honorable House should be. In the previous debate, it's about that project, this project, that project. Honorable Speaker, I think we have to change now. We as legislators and policy makers will have to change. Honorable Speaker, many of the young leaders know I'm the only one that turns up on time through an NEC meeting when I was Minister of State. I was the only one turning up in time for this parliamentary meeting. I turn up on time for government caucus. While I was in the opposition, I always turn up in the opposition caucus. Because I felt, Honorable Speaker, my role is that of the legislature. And so number one priority must come to this place. What is then our challenge, Honorable Speaker? Let me point out one factor which is a weakness. For example, those of us who are open members, we don't have access to high-powered technical advice. We don't even have internet in our offices. We can't even engage somebody that we want a law to be changed. We just have to go through the Attorney General or go through the committee or we just sit down and say our role is to bring development to above. That has been what we are. But when we come as leaders, as legislators, and as policymakers, we are devoid of the technical support. Honorable Speaker, I think this is one area that we really have to look at to beef up the capacity of the leaders of this nation. Prime Minister, I understand, has 32 positions to support the office of the Prime Minister. Deputy Prime Minister, I understand, has 15 positions. Ministers of State have 8 positions to support them, plus their departments. Open members, no gatia. People are no gatia. So, how will we come and debate here? So, the House is devoid of this level of debate. And so this is one area I sincerely hope that as we look at our role properly, I think my recommendation, Honorable Speaker, you as head of the legislature, is to provide sufficient support to leaders that have been elected to this Honorable House. Executive all got. That's all MIPLA no got. Opposition too no got. This is an area that I thought I'd want to. Two more areas I want to speak about. For 21 years, Honorable Speaker, our country has experienced an autonomous government in the region of Bougainville. In the previous governments and taken up by this government, a nominated number of provinces were given some form of status. We are not calling it autonomous arrangement, but devolvement of power in the name of a service delivery agreement. My debate is, I think the nation, because we are a highly diverse country, and we know the diversity that we have, we cannot cut and paste what's happening in Anga and allow the Morobe province to do the same. It's different. We are different. And therefore, my argument, Honorable Speaker, is having experienced in one region of our country 21 years of an autonomous arrangement, I would strongly recommend to the government, our government, that we seriously look at an autonomous structure so that we can then devolve the powers away from, and I quote, the Waigani swamp, which exists on the other side. What is Waigani swamp means central control. There is too much central control here in Waigani Port Moresby. We, the Governor, Honorable Peter Ipatas, and other governors who are duly elected, really want to exercise their leadership, and when they do, we see the provinces that are moving very, very well. With 21 years of experience, we've been giving funding to Bougainville, Mr. Speaker. I think that's a very good experience for the Minister for Intergovernment Relations to take on board and structure the right arrangement so that we can manage a staged approach to giving powers to provinces, that the issues that we've been complaining about. For example, one complaint that I hear regularly is, why is the provincial financial manager from Waigani? Why are they appointing the district finance manager from Waigani? Why don't we appoint these people so they are accountable to us? Those are some of the areas, I think, in an autonomous structure. And with our 21 years in this country through the region of Bougainville, I think we have an opportunity to struck a good structure so that devolvement of power, we may not call it autonomy, but devolvement of power can be managed in such a way that powers and therefore resources and structures can therefore be managed successfully. I want to sit down with this comment and my observation. I believe that the 1995 reforms on the organic law on provincial governments and local level governments was one of the worst reforms that this country ever had. And therefore it is incumbent of this 11th Parliament to completely review and overhaul the 1995 organic law on provincial governments and local level government. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The question is that the grievance be noted. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Leader of government business.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Thank you all members. Also, it's on true law. It's the last day blow today. In this year's beginning Parliament, members on opposition side as well for participating in the program law. Prime Minister, as well as constructive debates we had during the week, questions raised, and at the same time during grievance debate, we looking plenty leader participate. Thinking blow at the same time grievance blow law. Many of our outstanding issues as we continue to try our best to run our country and through our government as well. Mr. Speaker, move us in Parliament go next week Tuesday, 17th, 10 o'clock a.m. Thank you.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honourable members. Parliament is now adjourned to 10 o'clock on Tuesday next week.